A black judge recognized her childhood boyfriend on trial. Imagine sitting in a courtroom filled with strangers. Reporters and people watching your every move. You're a judge, the person in charge of justice. You have to be strong, fair, and unshaken by emotions. Your words decide if someone goes free or goes to prison for years. But what happens when you look up from your bench and see someone from your past, someone you once loved, standing on trial as the accused? This is the story of Judge Ayla Evans, a brilliant, strong, and respected judge. She fought hard to get to where she is. People trust her to be fair, but on this day, something extraordinary happens. The man on trial isn't just any man. He's Devin Carter, her childhood best friend and first love. As the charges are read, Layla's heart begins to race. Memories come flooding back, days of riding bikes, sharing snacks, and promising to be best friends forever. But now Devin isn't that playful boy anymore. He's a grown man accused of robbery and assault. Layla knows she must stay professional, but how do you stay fair when the person on trial is someone who once held your heart? The choice she makes will shock everyone, and the twist at the end, no one will see it coming. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the good we're capable of. Let's get into it. The courtroom feels heavy. Every seat is filled. Reporters sit in the back row with notepads in hand, whispering to each other. Family members of the defendant and the victims sit on opposite sides of the room, eyes filled with tension, fear, and hope. Everyone is waiting for justice. At the front of the room sits Judge Ayla Evans, her black robe draped over her shoulders like armor. Her face is calm, unreadable, the way a judge is supposed to be. She grips the wooden bench in front of her with both hands. Her job is simple but powerful: deliver justice, no matter who's in front of. Court is now in session. The BFF announces, his voice echoing off the tall marble walls. All rise for the Honorable Judge Evans. The entire courtroom stands as one. All eyes turn toward her as she rises slowly, her back straight, her face is cold as stone. She walks with the confidence of someone who's been doing this for years. Even though her heart is heavy, no one sees her struggle. No one sees her doubt. Please be seated, Layla says, her voice calm but firm. The crowd sits, but the weight of the case hangs in the air. Her assistant places a folder in front of her. She opens it slowly, her eyes scanning the first page, her lips pressed together as she reads the charges. Today's case is the state versus Devin Carter, she announces, her voice strong and clear. The charges are armed robbery and assault. She reads it like it's just another case, but her eyes narrow at the name Devin Carter. The name hits her like a stone to the chest. Her breath hitches. That name, her heart skips a beat. No, it can't be. It's just a coincidence. It's not him. But then the BFS speaks. Bring in the defendant. The BFO calls. The large double doors at the back of the courtroom swing open with a slow echoing creak. Everyone turns to look. Footsteps tap against the cold tile floor, heavy, slow, deliberate. Each step feels louder than the last. Layla glances up. Her hands freeze on the desk. Her body stiffens. It's him. It's Devin. Her breath catches in her throat. Her heart feels like it's beating in slow motion, and for a second, she forgets how to breathe. Devin Carter. Her mind flashes to images from her past. The boy who was her best friend, the boy she trusted more than anyone, the boy who called her lion because he said she was fierce and brave. Her chest tight. She remembers racing bikes with him, eating snacks after school, and sharing secrets. They were inseparable. But now he's standing in her courtroom, not as a friend, not as someone she can laugh with. He's the defendant, the accused, the man on trial. Her lips press into a thin line. She sits up straighter, trying to mask the swirl of emotions in her chest. She locks her eyes on him, forcing herself to stay strong. You're not a kid anymore. You're Judge Evans. Do your job. Devin's eyes scan the room slowly until they land on her. Their eyes meet. It's like time stops. His eyes widen for a fraction of a second, and Layla sees it. Recognition. For a moment, it's like the world melts away, and it's just them. Her heart remembers. So does his. He blinks hard, his face hardening. He looks away quickly, but it's too late. Lee already saw it. He remembers me. She swallows the lump in her throat, fighting to stay calm. Stay strong, Layla, stay strong. The court clerk stands and begins reading the charges. Devin Carter, you are charged with armed robbery And assault, how do you plead? The clerk asks. The room goes silent. Reporters lean forward, ready to write down his every word. The victim's family stare him down like they can see right through him. The weight of the entire courtroom is on Devon's shoulders. Leila watches him closely, her eyes sharp like a hawk. What will he say? What will he do? Devon raises his head slowly. His eyes are locked on the clerk, but she knows he feels her eyes on him. His jaw tightens, his eyes stay calm. He speaks clearly. Not guilty, Your Honor, he says, his voice firm. No fear, no stutter, no hesitation. Leila feels a twinge in her chest. Not guilty. Her mind races. He didn't do it. Or is he just playing a game? She can't tell. Her hands tighten on the wooden bench. Is this the same Devon I knew? Her mind flashes back to a memory from when she was 12. She and Devon were sitting on his front porch eating red popsicles. The sun was setting, the air smelled like rain, and the world felt calm. You're going to be a lawyer or something big, Lee, Devon said, licking his popsicle like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Why you say that? She asked, squinting at him. 'Cause you don't give up. You don't let nobody win, even when they bigger than you, Devon replied with a grin. You a lion, Lailash remembered, smiling so wide her cheeks hurt. A lion. She liked that no one had ever called her brave before. She believed him. But then Devon's family moved. No goodbyes, no letters, just gone. He left. Back in the courtroom, Leila stares at Devon, the memory still fresh in her mind. She sees the boy she knew, but she also sees the man he's become. He's taller, stronger, harder. His eyes don't have that same glow. She tries to push her feelings aside, but it's hard. What happened to you, Devon? She wonders. Why are you here? Her heart is at war with her mind. Her heart says that's your old friend. You know him. He would never do this. Her mind says he's a man accused of armed robbery. He's not the same boy you knew. Her fingers tighten around her gavel. She knows she can't let her past affect her judgment. But her heart isn't so sure. Prosecution, you may call your first witness, Lee says, her voice cool and professional. The prosecutor, Mr. Davis, steps forward with confidence. Your Honor, we call Officer Marcus Hill to the stand. The police officer steps forward, taking the stand. He raises his hand and swears to tell the truth. Lee sits tall, her face calm, but her hands feel cold. Officer Hill, Mr. Davis begins. Can you tell the court what you saw the night of the robbery? The officer nods. I was responding to a 911 call about a robbery in progress. I arrived on scene at 9:45 p.m. I saw 3 suspects running from the store. One of them was wearing a red hoodie. Lia's heart skips. Her mind flashes to another memory of Devon running down the street with his red hoodie flapping behind him like a superhero cape. Objection, Your Honor, says Miss Reed, Devon's defense attorney. The officer did not identify Mr. Carter by name. Objection sustained, Leila says firmly, but inside her heart isn't firm at all. Her eyes flicker to Devon. He doesn't look at her. He stares at the table. His fingers tap lightly, his face perfectly still. Why aren't you looking at me, Devon? She wonders. Are you hiding something? Her eyes narrow as she studies him, her childhood best friend, her first love, and maybe, just maybe, her greatest mistake. Late that night, long after the trial session had ended, Judge Leila Evans sits alone in her chambers. The dim desk lamp casts a soft glow on the dark oak desk. Papers are stacked neatly in front of her, but her eyes aren't on them. Her eyes are locked on a small photo clipped to the case file. The photo shows the crime scene, broken glass, police tape, and a red hoodie lying on the ground. Her fingers hover over it. Her heart feels like it's being squeezed. Her mind flashes back to a summer afternoon. She's 11 years old again. She and Devon are sitting on the front steps of her house. The sun is warm on their faces. Devon is wearing his red hoodie, that same red hoodie he always wore even in the summer. It was too big for him, but he loved it. Why you always wear that hoodie? She had asked, teasing him. Ain't you hot? He grinned, pulling the hood over his head like he was a superhero. Not, it makes me fast, he said. Then he shot up, sprinting down the block. You can't catch me lying. Bet I can, Leila yelled, chasing him down the street. She remembers running after him, laughing so hard her chest hurt. He was faster than her, but only because he always started running first. She never let him win on purpose. Though she was a lion after all, his lion back in her chambers, Leela snaps out of the memory. She stares hard at the photo of the red hoodie lying on the pavement near the crime scene. Number, it's not his hoodie, it's not his hoodie. She tells herself this over and over, but the doubt creeps in like a shadow. She knows it's common. Thousands of people wear red hoodies. It's not special. It could belong to anyone. But why does it feel like it belonged? Her assistant knocks on the door, snapping her out of her thoughts. Judge Evans, there's a delivery. Like it belongs. Her assistant knocks on the door, snapping her out of her thoughts. Judge Evans, there's a delivery for you, her assistant says, placing a small envelope on the desk. Delivery from who? Leela asks, frowning. The assistant shrugs. No return address. It was just left at the front desk. Lila's eyes narrowed as she reaches for the envelope. The paper feels rough, like someone crumpled it for smoothing it back out. She opens it slowly, pulling out a folded piece of lined notebook paper. Her heart stops. She knows his handwriting, the big, bold letters, the slightly slanted lines. She's seen it before. It's Devon's handwriting. The note is short but powerful. I didn't do it, Isla, you know me. Devon, her breath comes in shallow gasps. Her chest tightens. How did he get this to her? Who delivered it? She looks at the security camera in her chambers. No one is there. She checks the time. It's 9:27 p.m. Who could have dropped this off without anyone seeing? Her heart pounds as she stares at the words again. I didn't do it, Lee, you know me. Her fingers curl into a fist, gripping the notes so tight it crumples. Do I know you, Devon? She wonders, do I really know you anymore? The next morning, the courtroom is packed. Reporters' cameras flash as people file into their seats. The trial resumes. Judge Leela Evans sits on her bench, wearing her calm, unreadable face, but inside she is anything but calm. Her eyes flicker to Devon as he walks in, escorted by the BFF. He doesn't look at her this time. Why won't you look at me, Devon? Prosecution, call your first witness, Lee says firmly, her voice sharp like a blade. The prosecution calls Officer Marcus Hill, a police officer who responded to the robbery. Officer Hill steps forward and raises his hand to take the oath. He sits in the witness stand, his uniform perfectly neat, his badge gleaming under the courtroom lights. Officer Hill says, Mr. Davis, the prosecutor, can you tell the court what you saw on the night of the robbery? The officer adjusted his microphone. Yes, sir. I responded to a 911 call at 9:42 p.m. When I arrived at the scene, I saw 3 suspects running out of the store. One of them was wearing a red hoodie. I chased them, but they jumped into a black sedan and drove off. Did you get a good look at any of the suspects? Officer Hill, Mr. Davis asks, not their faces. No, Officer Hill admits, but I did see the one wearing the red hoodie. Lia's fingers tighten on her gavel. The red hoodie again. Did you later identify the person wearing the red hoodie as Devon Carter? Mr. Davis asks. Yes, sir, based on witness statements and the surveillance footage. Officer Hill replies, objection, Your Honor, says M. Reed, Devon's defense attorney. There is no direct evidence linking my client to that hoodie. Objection sustained. Leela says, her voice firm, but inside her chest feels heavy. The hoodie, why does it have to be a red hoodie? The prosecution calls Mrs. Taylor, a store clerk who says she saw the robbery. Mrs. Taylor takes the stand, looking nervous. Her hands shake slightly as she holds the edge of her chair. Mrs. Taylor, the prosecutor says, can you tell the court what you saw the night of the robbery? I saw them, she stammers. I saw 3 men running out of the store. Did you recognize any of them? Mr. Davis asks her. Eyes scan the courtroom nervously. They land on Devon Carter. Her eyes stay on him for just a second too long. Him, she says, pointing at him. I saw him. The courtroom gasps. Lila's eyes snap to Mrs. Taylor. How sure are you? She wonders. Are you certain it was this man? Mr. Davis asks, gesturing to Devon. Mrs. Taylor hesitates. I think it was him, she says, her voice unsure. Think. M. Reed jumps up from her chair. Do you think it was him? Well, he looked like him, Mrs. Taylor admits. Did you see his face clearly? Mrs. Taylor. Miss Reed presses. Mrs. Taylor stares at her hands. Number, he had a hoodie on. Miss Reed turns to the jury. She didn't see his face. She thinks it was him. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thinking isn't knowing. That night, Lila sits in her chambers again, replaying the day in her mind. The hoodie, the witness, the doubt. Her eyes flick to the note on her desk I didn't do it, Leela, you know me. Her heart is torn in two. Do I believe him? Can I believe him? Her assistant walks in with another envelope. This was just left for you, Judge Evans. Lila's eyes narrow. Another letter. She opens it slowly, her breath caught in her throat. This note is shorter, 2 words, but those 2 words send chills down her spine. Trust me. She leans back in her chair, heart thawing in her chest. How is he doing this? Her eyes dart to the security cameras in her chambers. No sign of anyone. Her fingers curl into fists. You're playing games, Devin, she whispers, her eyes narrowing. But in the back of her mind, a small voice says, what if he's telling the truth? She closes her eyes and breathes deeply. I'm not a little girl anymore. I'm not that lion cubber. Eyes snap open, sharp and fierce. I'm Judge Evans now. But even lions have doubts. It's the 3rd day of the trial. The courtroom is packed tighter than before. People whisper, the buzz of gossip spreading like wildfire. Reporters sit at the back with their cameras ready. Everyone knows this case is big, but Judge Leela Evans isn't thinking about the crowd. She isn't thinking about the press. She's thinking about Devin Carter. Her eyes scan the courtroom as her fingers tap lightly on the side of her gavel. She's supposed to be calm, steady and unreadable, but today her mind is anything but calm. She looks at him as he sits next to his lawyer, M. Reed. Devin sits perfectly still, his hands folded in front of him. His eyes are locked on the table. He's too calm. She thinks, why is he so calm? Her eyes narrow. Are you innocent, Devin, or are you just good at hiding it? Her heart remembers the boy. She knew the boy who promised to protect her, but her mind knows better. People change. Prosecution, you may present your evidence, Judge. Laya says, her voice is firm as steel. Prosecutor Mr. Davis stands buttoning his suit jacket. His face is smug, like he already knows he's won. Your Honor, I'd like to present new video evidence to the court. The jury perks up, so does the crowd. Video evidence. Permission granted, Judge. Laya says, trying to keep her voice steady, but inside she feels a flicker of fear. Video. The lights dim. The TV screen at the front of the courtroom flickers to life. Here, Mr. Davis says, pointing to the screen as the video begins to play. This footage was captured by a surveillance camera across the street from the jewelry store. Everyone leans in. Leela leans into the video. Shows a blurry street at night, people walking, cars passing. It's quiet. Then 3 figures run across the screen. One of them is wearing a red hoodie. Stop right there, Mr. Davis says, pausing the video. The red hooded figure is frozen mid-run. Look closely. You see the red hoodie. That is the same red hoodie we found at the crime scene. The crowd murmurs, play it, Judge. Leela says, her voice cold as ice. She doesn't take her eyes off the screen. The video continues. The figures run off screen. Then a black car pulls up to the curb. The figures jump in and the car speeds away. Mr. Davis pauses the video. Again, the prosecution believes that the man in the red hoodie is none other than Devin Carter. Objection. M. Reed stands up, pointing at the screen. That video is blurry. No faces can be seen. You cannot say with certainty that is my client. Objection sustained. Judge. Leela says, her eyes sharp. Mr. Davis, do you have anything that directly links the red hoodie to the defendant? Mr. Davis clears his throat. Your Honor, we have witness testimony that places Devin Carter near the scene, as well as his past criminal record. Combined with this video, we believe it's clear he was involved. Leela narrows her eyes. Circumstantial evidence. No faces, no fingerprints, just a hoodie and some shadows on a screen. Her eyes shift to Devin. He's still calm, still stone-faced. His eyes finally meet hers. What are you hiding, Devin? She wonders. It's an hour later, when the most intense moment of the trial begins. Your Honor, the defense calls Devin Carter to the stand. Says, Miss Reed. The courtroom buzzes with excitement. Everyone whispers, this is the moment they've all been waiting for. Leila's heart beats faster. He's going to testify. Devin rises from his chair, his movement slow but steady. He walks up to the witness. Stand. The chains on his ankles clinking softly with every step. The BFF raises his hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? The BFF asks. I do. Devin replies, his voice strong. He sits down, and for a moment the whole courtroom is silent. All eyes are on him. The reporters' pens are flying across their notepads. M. Reed steps forward. Devin, did you rob that jewelry store? No, he says firmly. Were you wearing a red hoodie that night? No, he replies. I was at home with my little brother. Do you have anyone who can confirm you were at home? Reed asks. My brother, Devin says, but he's just a kid. Do you have any reason to believe someone is framing you? Devin pauses. He looks up for the first time. His eyes scan the room slowly, his gaze steady. He locks eyes with Leela. Yeah, he says slowly. I think somebody's trying to set me up. His eyes never leave Leela for a second. She feels like he's not just answering the lawyer, he's talking to me. Prosecutor Mr. Davis steps forward like a shark who smells blood. Mr. Carter, he says slowly, circling the witness stand. You've been in trouble before, haven't you? Devin sits up straighter. Yeah, I made mistakes. You were arrested for shoplifting, weren't you? Yes, Devin says, his jaw tight. And you were also arrested for trespassing on private property at age 17, correct? Yes, Devin replies, his voice cold. So Devin, would it be fair to say that you have a habit of breaking the law? Mr. Davis says with a smirk. Objection. Reed says, standing. My client's past has no bearing on this case. Sustained. Judge Leela says quickly, glaring at Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, stick to this case, but it's too late. The damage is done. The jury is already thinking about his past mistakes. Leela knows it. She can feel it. The past never stays. Barry does it. Devin. The next day, Judge Leela watches the jury out of the room to begin deliberations. It could take hours, it could take days. The courtroom clears out, but Devin stays seated at his table. The BFF tells him to stand, but he doesn't move. He's looking at Leela. Their eyes meet for a moment. It feels like they're kids again, sitting on the porch eating popsicles, talking about the future. She blinks, and they're back in the present. He's the defendant, she's the judge. He leans forward just a little, eyes locked on hers. His lips move, but no sound comes out. She reads the words on his lips. I didn't do it. Lion. Her chest tightens, her throat goes dry. Lion. No one had called her that in years, no one but him. Her eyes stay on him as he's led away by the bailiff. She grips her gavel tighter, her knuckles turning white. Her heart is screaming, I want to believe you, Devin. I want to believe you so bad. But her mind whispers, don't be weak. People lie. It's the moment everyone has been waiting for. The air in the courtroom is so tense it feels like you could cut it with a knife. The jury has been deliberating for 4 hours. Reporters, family members, and strangers crowd the seats, eyes locked on Judge Leela Evans. She sits on the high bench, her hands folded tightly under the desk. Her face is calm as always, but inside her heart is a storm. She tells herself to breathe, to stay steady, but it feels like every breath is heavier than the last. Her eyes flicker to Devin Carter sitting at the defense table next to his lawyer. Miss Reed. Devin's head is down, his fingers tapping on the table like he's playing a silent drum beat. She notices his leg bouncing under the table. He's nervous. Why is he nervous? If he's innocent, she wonders. Please rise. The bailli says loudly. The jury has reached a verdict. Everyone stands. The jurors file one by one, their faces unreadable. Not a single smile, not a single frown. Leila's heart is in her throat. Has the jury reached a verdict? Leela asks, her voice steady though her chest feels like it's on fire. The foreman stands with a piece of paper in his hand. Yes, Your Honor. Please read the verdict, she says. The courtroom goes silent. No one breathes. Not even Leila. The foreman unfolds the paper slowly, too slowly. He looks at it, then looks at Devin. He clears his throat. We, the jury, find the defendant Devin Carter not guilty. For a moment, no one moves. It's like time is frozen. Then everything happens at once. Devin's mom sobs loudly. Miss Reed jumps up, hugging Devin tight. You're free, Devin. You're free. Reporters are scribbling on their notepads, snapping pictures, while Devin's family bursts into cheers. Devin sits there completely still for a moment. Slowly, he raises his head and looks directly at Judge Leela Evans. Their eyes meet. Her heart skips. She doesn't smile. She doesn't frown. Her face is as hard as stone, but inside her heart is twisted into knots. Did I make the right choice? Did the jury make the right choice? Devin raises his hand slowly and places it over his heart. He nods at her. It's subtle, but she knows what it means. I told you, Lion. Her chest tightens. She grips the edge of her desk. Why does that still hurt? She wonders. Why does it feel like I missed something? The gavel hits the desk. Bang, bang. Court is adjourned. Leela declares. The crowd floods out of the room, reporters chasing after Devon, cameras flashing in his face. That evening, Lila sits in her chambers. The lights are dim, her robe is draped over a chair. She sits at her desk, staring at the open case file. Her eyes are locked on the picture of the red hoodie lying on the ground at the crime scene. Her fingers tap slowly against the desk. Her gut is heavy with doubt. She stares at the picture like it holds a secret she's missing. Then her assistant knocks on the door. Judge Evans, there's a package for you. Lila turns her head slowly. Her heart beats just a little faster. A package? Who sent it? She asks, sitting up straight. No name, no address. Her assistant says, placing a small, square box on the edge of the desk. Lila stares at it for a moment, her fingers hovering just above it. Her instincts scream she's seen this before. The letter, the other note. Slowly she opens it. Her eyes narrow. Inside the box is a single item, a red hoodie. Her breath catches in her throat. Her hands go numb. No. Her eyes dart to the bottom of the box. There's a note. It's written in the same big bold letters she recognized from before. I knew I didn't do it, but I never said I wasn't there. Her blood runs cold. Her chest tightens like a vice. Her eyes dart back to the hoodie. Her fingers tremble as she picks it up, turning it over slowly. There's a logo on the front. Her breath stops. It's the same logo from the surveillance footage, the exact same. This case, but it's too late. The damage is done. The jury is already thinking about his past mistakes. Lila knows it. She can feel it. The past never stays. Very does it. Devon. The next day, Judge Lila watches the jury out of the room to begin deliberations. It could take hours, it could take days. The courtroom clears out, but Devon stays seated at his table. The BFF tells him to stand, but he doesn't move. He's looking at Lila. Their eyes meet for a moment. It feels like they're kids again, sitting on the porch, eating popsicles, talking about the future. She blinks, and they're back in the present. He's the defendant, she's the judge. He leans forward just a little, eyes locked on hers. His lips move, but no sound comes out. She reads the words on his lips. I didn't do it. Lion. Her chest tightens, her throat goes dry. Lion. No one had called her that in years, no one but him. Her eyes stay on him as he's led away by the bailiff. She grips her gavel tighter, her knuckles turning white. Her heart is screaming, I want to believe you, Devon. I want to believe you so bad. But her mind whispers, don't be weak. People lie. It's the moment everyone has been waiting for. The air in the courtroom is so tense it feels like you could cut it with a knife. The jury has been deliberating for 4 hours. Reporters, family members, and strangers crowd the seats, eyes locked on Judge Lila Evans. She sits on the high bench, her hands folded tightly under the desk. Her face is calm as always, but inside her heart is a storm. She tells herself to breathe, to stay steady, but it feels like every breath is heavier than the last. Her eyes flicker to Devon Carter sitting at the defense table next to his lawyer. Miss Reed. Devon's head is down, his fingers tapping on the table like he's playing a silent drum beat. She notices his leg bouncing under the table. He's nervous. Why is he nervous? If he's innocent, she wonders. Please rise. The bailiff says laudably. The jury has reached a verdict. Everyone stands. The jurors file one by one, their faces unreadable. Not a single smile, not a single frown. Lila's heart is in her throat. Has the jury reached a verdict? Lila asks, her voice steady though her chest feels like it's on fire. The foreman stands with a piece of paper in his hand. Yes, Your Honor. Please read the verdict, she says. The courtroom goes silent. No one breathes. Not even Lila. The foreman unfolds the paper slowly, too slowly. He looks at it, then looks at Devon. He clears his throat. We, the jury, find the defendant, Devon Carter, not guilty. For a moment, no one moves. It's like time is frozen. Then everything happens at once. Devon's mom sobs loudly. Miss Reed jumps up, hugging Devon tight. You're free, Devon, you're free. Reporters are scribbling on their notepads, snapping pictures, while Devon's family bursts into cheers. Devon sits there completely still for a moment. Slowly he raises his head and looks directly at Judge Lila Evans. Their eyes meet. Her heart skips. She doesn't smile, she doesn't frown. Her face is as hard as stone, but inside her heart is twisted into knots. Did I make the right choice? Did the jury make the right choice? Devon raises his hand slowly and places it over his heart. He nods at her. It's subtle, but she knows what it means. I told you, Lion. Her chest tightens. She Grips the edge of her desk. Why does that still hurt? She wonders. Why does it feel like I missed something? The gavel hits the desk. Bang bang. Court is adjourned. Leela declares. The crowd floods out of the room. Reporters chasing after Devin, cameras flashing in his face. That evening, Leila sits in her chambers. The lights are dim. Her robe is draped over a chair. She sits at her desk, staring at the open case file. Her eyes are locked on the picture of the red hoodie lying on the ground of the crime scene. Her fingers tap slowly against the desk. Her gut is heavy with doubt. She stares at the picture like it holds a secret she's missing. Then her assistant knocks on the door. Judge Evans, there's a package for you. Leila turns her head slowly. Her heart beats just a little faster. A package? Who sent it? She asks, sitting up straight. No name, no address. Her assistant says, placing a small square box on the edge of the desk. Leila stares at it for a moment, her fingers hovering just above it. Her instincts scream she's seen this before. The letter, the other note. Slowly she opens it. Her eyes narrow. Inside the box is a single item, a red hoodie. Her breath catches in her throat. Her hands go numb. No. Her eyes dart to the bottom of the box. There's a note. It's written in the same big bold letters she recognized from before. I told you I didn't do it, but I never said I wasn't there. Her blood runs cold. Her chest tightens like a vice. Her eyes dart back to the hoodie. Her fingers tremble as she picks it up, turning it over slowly. There's a logo on the front. Her breath stops. It's the same logo from the surveillance footage, the exact same hoodie. She remembers the video. She remembers the blurry figure in the red hoodie running across the screen. The same hoodie she's holding now. Her breathing quickens. Her hands shake. Her heart is pounding so loudly it's all she can hear. He was there the whole time. Her mind races. Did I just let a guilty man walk free? Did I let him fool me? Her assistant walks back, and Judge Evans, Devin Carter, is here to see you. Her head snaps up. Her eyes go wide. He's here. Do you want me to send him in? Her assistant asked, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside Leila's chest. Her eyes dart back to the hoodie on her desk. Her fingers curl into fists. She takes a slow breath in, her chest rising, and lets it out slowly. Yes, she says, send him in. Her assistant nods and leaves. The door closes behind her with a soft click. Leila stares at the door, waiting. Her eyes flick to the hoodie one last time, then back to the door. His coming. She hears footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate. The doorknob turns. The door creaks open slowly. There he is, Devin Carter. He walks in with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. He closes the door behind him, locks it. The sound of the lock echoes through the room like thunder. Her heart pounds like a drum. Hey, Lion, he says softly, stepping closer. His eyes scan the room, slowly taking it all in. We finally got some privacy. Hi. She doesn't move. Her eyes stay on him like a hawk watching its prey. Why are you here, Devin? She asked, her voice cold as ice. He tilts his head to the side, his smile growing wider. To thank you. Her fingers twitch, ready to hit the security button under her desk. But she doesn't thank me for what? She asks, keeping her voice steady. For believing in me, he says, taking a step closer. For remembering the boy I used to be. Her eyes narrow. Her voice sharpens. That boy's gone. His smile fades. For the first time, his eye shows something else, something darker. He glances at the desk. He sees it, the red hoodie. He pauses, his eyes darting back to her face. For the first time, his mask cracks. He knows. She knows. Her hand moves slowly under the desk. Her fingers curl around the panic button. She presses it. No sound, no flash. But she knows security is on the way. You shouldn't have come here, Devin, she says, her eyes locked on his. You made a mistake. He chuckles, but it's a dry, hollow sound. He glances at the door, then back at her. We'll see about that, Lion. They stare at each other, the air between them crackling with tension. Neither one moves. The Lion and the snake. The sound of footsteps echoes in the hallway. Devin's head snaps toward the door. His eyes meet hers one last time, cold, calculating, dangerous. He takes a step back. His smile returns, sharp as a blade. Until next time, Lion. He turns, unlocks the door, and walks away just as two security guards approach. Leila watches him go, her heart still pounding like thunder. Her fingers shake as she reaches for the hoodie. Her mind is clear now. She knows exactly who Devin Carter is. He's not the boy she used to know. He's the man who played her later. That Night as Leela sits at home, her phone buzzes, she picks it up and checks the caller ID, unknown number, her eyes narrow.